At my niece's graduation party, my brother handed out gift envelopes for the kids who earned them. My sons had a dollar bill and a note that said, "Step it up, kid." We didn't argue, we just walked away. The next morning, my brother opened his porch door and yelled so loud, "Thanks for joining us today. It's great to have you here. Before we get started, let us know where you're from. Leave a comment with your city. Now, let's pick up the story from where we left off. I took my son Liam to my brother Jake's house for his daughter Mia's high school graduation party. At 10, Liam's shy big crowds make his hands shake, but he'd spent 3 days on a card for Mia, blue ink stars swirling across it because she's obsessed with astronomy. Jake's place was a showpiece. String lights twinkled over a manicured lawn, a catered buffet boasted a chocolate fountain, and a banner screamed Mia Future Star in gold letters. Kids darted around with glow sticks, their laughter sharp, while adults sipped wine, their voices loud and loose. I stayed close to Liam, watching him clutch his card, his sneakers scuffing the grass as he whispered Mia's name to practice. Jake strutted over, handing out gift envelopes crisp, embossed with Mia's name for the kids. He said, "Earned them." Liam got one too, but it wasn't the same. A plain envelope, no frills, just his name scratched in Jake's jagged scrawl. Inside, a crumpled dollar bill and a note, "Step it up, kid." Jake smirked as Liam unfolded it, his voice cutting through the chatter. "He's been lazy, barely talks, just mopes. Motivation, right." My parents nodded, chuckling like it was clever. Liam's face crumpled. He looked at me, eyes wide and wet, like he'd failed something he didn't even understand. I felt my chest tighten, not with shock, but with a sick, heavy dread, like I'd been braced for this hit. My husband Dan squeezed my shoulder, his jaw clenched tight. We didn't shout or argue. I took Liam's left hand, Dan took his right, and we walked away, the party's noise fading into a dull hum behind us. At home, Liam sat on the couch, still holding his card, and asked, "Did I mess up, Mom?" His voice was small, breaking. I knelt, hugged him tight, and said, "No, baby. Some people just don't see you right, but I saw it clear as day. This wasn't random. It was my childhood replaying, the same old knife, and now it was slicing into my son." That night, after Liam fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. His card for Mia lay beside me, its blue stars smudged where his fingers had gripped it too tight. I traced them, my heart aching not just for today, but for all the days that led here. I'm 52 now, old enough to know better, but young enough to feel the sting of my brother Jake's cruelty like it's fresh. Growing up, he was the sun in our family sky, baseball star from King, the kid who could do no wrong. I was the shadow, always a step behind, too quiet, too clumsy with words. My A in science earned a distracted nod. Jake's B in gym got a backyard barbecue with Dad grilling his favorite ribs. I learned early to make myself small, to smile through the hurt, because complaining only got me. Mum's sigh, "Don't be so sensitive." Ellen, Liam's face at the party, those wide, searching eyes, brought it all back. I remembered my 12th birthday, a humid July evening, when Jake handed me a gift in front of everyone, a box of mothballs wrapped in newspaper. "For the loser smell," he said, grinning. The adults laughed, Mum, Dad, even Aunt Peg with her iced tea. I forced a smile, but later, in my room, I sobbed into my pillow, the one Grandma had embroidered with daisies before she passed. I was too ashamed to tell her, even though she'd have hugged me and said, "You're enough, Ellie." That shame clung to me. A quiet weight I carried into adulthood, through potlucks and Christmas dinners, where Jake's stories always drowned mine out. I'd hoped Liam would have what I didn't, a family that saw him, loved him whole, but today, that hope cracked open, and I saw the truth. Jake wasn't just thoughtless, he was mean, and my parents were his chorus, humming along. Liam's different from Jake's kids, loud, confident Mia and her brothers, who barrel through life like it owes them. Liam's gentle, his world's a little louder, a little brighter than he can handle sometimes. Loud noises, like the firecrackers at Jake's party, make him flinch, cover his ears. He loves drawing, spends hours with his colored pencils, creating worlds where stars have names and trees whisper secrets. I thought Mia might get that she's into stars too, always talking about constellations. That's why Liam worked so hard on her card, why he practiced saying congratulations in the car. His voice soft but sure. Seeing Jake mock that effort, reduce it to $1 and a sneer, felt like a theft, not just of Liam's pride, but of the safety I'd promised him. I'd spent years telling myself family was worth it, that the Sunday dinners, the shared recipes, the faded photo albums tied us together. But what good is togetherness if it hurts my boy? I thought of Mum's apple pie, the one she'd make every fall, the recipe card stained with her handwriting. We'd peel apples together when I was Liam's age, her hands steady, mine fumbling. She'd hum old hymns, and for those moments, I felt close to her. But even then, Jake would burst in, stealing a slice before it cooled, and she'd laugh, call him her hungry bear. My careful slices got no praise. I kept peeling, hoping one day she'd notice. She never did. Now, watching Liam sleep, his chest rising under the quilt I'd sewn in blue squares like his stars, I felt that old ache twist into something sharper. I peeled apples for Liam too, taught him to roll dough, thinking those traditions would anchor him to family. But Jake's note wasn't a tradition, it was a verdict, and my parents' chuckles were their signature on it. Dan came in, his flannel shirt soft from years of wear, and sat across from me. He didn't say much, just poured us coffee the kind we'd always bought, Folgers, because it reminded us of our first apartment when we'd stay up late, dreaming about a life like this. His silence was steady, not heavy, and I needed it. It's not new, is it? He said finally, his voice low. I shook my head. He'd seen it for years. Jake's jabs at Liam's quietness, calling him spacey. Mum's insistence that Liam hug everyone, even when he shrank back. Dad's gruff, toughen up, when Liam cried at a loud movie. We tried to explain Liam's sensory issues, how he needs time to feel safe. They'd nod, then forget or worse, roll their eyes. You baby him, Jake said once, tossing a football too hard at Liam, who ducked and ran to me. I'd let it slide, told myself it was just Jake being Jake, but tonight, I saw it for what it was, a pattern, one I'd lived through, one I'd let creep into Liam's life. I looked at Dan, his hands wrapped around his mug, the same hands that built Liam's treehouse last summer, hammering boards while Liam handed him nails, both of them laughing. That treehouse was Liam's haven, where he'd sit with his sketchbook, safe from the world's noise. Jake had never climbed up, never asked to see Liam's drawings. Neither had Mom or Dad. They didn't know Liam named his favorite star, Hope after a book we read together, or that he leaves crumbs out for the sparrows because he thinks they're lonely. They didn't want to know, and I'd been fooling myself thinking love could bridge that gap. Love doesn't work if it's one-sided. If it demands you shrink to fit. I stood, my chair scraping the floor, and opened the cabinet where I kept the important stuff bills, Liam's school papers, a folder I'd started years ago without meaning to. Inside were scraps of our life with them, a text from Jake asking for $200 just till payday, never repaid, a photo of Liam at Easter, ignored while Mia opened her basket, an email from Mum saying Liam's shyness was my fault for coddling. I'd saved them, not for revenge, but because some part of me knew I'd need proof one day, proof that I wasn't imagining it, that the hurt was real. Tonight, that folder felt heavier, like it held not just paper, but every time I'd bitten my tongue, every time I'd smiled to keep the peace. I closed it, my hand steady, and looked at Dan. This stops with us, I said. He nodded, not with anger, but with the quiet resolve of a man who'd carried my heart for 20 years. Liam deserved better, not just love, but protection, and for the first time, I knew I could give it to him, even if it meant letting go of the family I'd spent my life chasing. A week after the party, I was folding laundry in the living room, Liam's little socks soft from years of washing, when my phone buzzed. It was a Facebook notification, a tag from Jake. The first opened it, expecting a photo of Mia's graduation cake or some brag about her college plans. Instead, it was a snapshot of Liam's plain envelope, the dollar bill peeking out, captioned, "Teaching the kids some hustle. Thanks for the assist. Sis." My stomach dropped. Friends had liked it, old high school buddies of Jake's. A cousin I hadn't seen since Dad's 70th. Mum commented, "Tough love works." Dad added a thumbs up emoji. I stared at it, the pile of socks forgotten, my hands trembling. This wasn't just a jab at Liam anymore. It was a public banner waving his hurt for everyone to see. That afternoon, Liam came home from school, his backpack slung low, eyes red. A kid in his class had seen the post, called him Dollar Boy at recess. He didn't cry, just sat on the couch, picking at a loose thread on his sleeve, and asked, "Why does Uncle Jake hate me?" I had no answer, just a hollow ache where one should have been. Then came the second blow. Liam's bike, the red one Dan saved for last Christmas. The one Liam polished with a rag every Sunday, went missing from our garage. I called Jake, figuring Mia might have borrowed it for a spin. He laughed. That sharp bark I'd heard all my life. Yeah. I took it, gave it a test ride. Kid's too slow to use it anyway. When he dropped it off that evening, the front wheel was bent, the handlebars scratched. Liam ran out to see, his face lighting up, then falling as he touched the warped metal. "I can fix it," he said, voice small, but I saw his lip tremble. Jake shrugged, said, "Bill's character," and drove off, his truck's tailpipe coughing exhaust. I stood there, the summer air thick with honeysuckle from the neighbor's yard, and felt something snap inside me, not loud, but deep, like a thread stretched too long, finally giving way. This wasn't a joke or a lesson. It was Jake taking a hammer to my son's joy, and he didn't even care. I went to Mum and Dad's the next day. The house still smelled of the lavender candles Mum burned every summer. They were in the kitchen, Dad reading the paper, Mum slicing peaches for a cobbler. I set Liam's bent bike wheel on the table, the clank startling them. "This is what Jake did," I said, my voice steady but thin. "And that Facebook post, he's humiliating Liam. You saw it. Why didn't you stop him?" Mum sighed, wiping her hands on her apron, the one with faded strawberries she'd worn since I was a kid. "You're making a mountain out of nothing, Ellen." He's teasing. Like always. Dad folded his paper, Dodd grunting. "Jake's just being Jake. Boys need a push." I wanted to scream, to shake them until they saw. Liam's quiet courage, how he'd carried that wheel home himself, how he'd hugged me after school to make me feel better. Instead, I said, "He's 10, he's my son. This isn't a push, it's a shove off a cliff." Mum's mouth tightened, the way it did when I'd spill flour as a kid. "You were sensitive too," she said. "You turned out fine." Fine. The words stung a band-aid over a wound they'd never stitched. I left the wheel still on their table, the cobbler untouched. Back home, Dan was in the garage, tinkering with an old radio, the one we'd listened to on our first date, crackling with Johnny Cash. He didn't look up when I walked in, just said, "We're done, aren't we?" I nodded, leaning against the workbench, the smell of oil and wood shavings grounding me. "They won't change," I said. "Not for me. Not for him." He set the radio down, its static fading, and handed me a screwdriver. "Then we change it." We didn't mean the bike, that night. I pulled out the folder from the kitchen cabinet, its edges worn from years of quiet additions. I flipped through it. A text from Jake last year. "Need $50 for gas. Pay you back." He didn't. A receipt from when we covered Mum's car insurance after her little fender bender. A note from Dad. "Tell Liam to speak up." He mumbles. I kept it all. Not sure why, maybe to remind myself I wasn't crazy, that the slights weren't in my head. Now, it had a purpose. Dan brewed tea Lipton, the kind we'd steeped in chipped mugs through late-night talks about raising Liam. We sat at the table, the folder between us, and planned. We'd been paying Jake's phone bill for 2 years. Ever since he lost his job and swore it was temporary. We'd covered Mum's insurance. Dad's cable little lifelines they'd taken without a thank you. No more. I logged into our accounts, my fingers hesitating over the cancel buttons, not from doubt, but from the finality of it. Dan watched, his hand on mine, warm and calloused from years of fixing what broke. "For Liam," he said. I clicked. The screen confirmed it. Payment stopped. I added 2 more pages to the folder, screenshots of Jake's post, a photo of the ruined bike wheel, and closed it, my breath catching. This wasn't anger anymore. It was clarity, soft and sure, like the moment you find the last piece of a puzzle you didn't know you were solving. Liam came in then, barefoot, holding a drawing stars over a bent bike. "A boy pedaling anyway," he said, smiling faintly. I pulled him close. His hair smelled of the shampoo we'd used since he was a toddler, and I felt his small strength against me. Jake could take his bike, his pride, but not this, not us. I looked at Dan over Liam's head, and he nodded. We weren't just cutting ties, we were building something new, something safe, and it started right here in the glow of our little kitchen light. The next morning, before the sun broke over the trees, I slipped the folder bound with Liam's blue ribbon from his star card into a manila envelope. Dan drove us to Jake's house, the street still dark, the air cool with that early summer promise. We didn't speak. He just rested his hand on my knee as I placed it on Jake's porch beside the chipped ceramic planter. Mom had given him years ago, no note, no knock, just the quiet weight of truth. By noon, my phone lit up. His girlfriend Tara called first, voice shrill. The phone's off. AT&T says you stopped paying. What's wrong with you? I hung up without a word. Jake texted next. You're dead to me, Ellen. Enjoy your little tantrum. I didn't reply. Just set the phone face down on the counter next to the coffee pot, still warm from breakfast. The folder wasn't revenge. It was a line in the sand, drawn with years of ink and tears. Hours later, Mom and Dad pulled into our driveway, gravel crunching under their old Buick. I met them at the door, the screen creaking like it had since we moved in 15 years ago. Mom's eyes were red, her purse clutched tight. Dad's hands were in his pockets, shoulders hunched. You're tearing us apart over $1, she said, her voice cracking. I stepped aside, let them in, and handed them the folder. Mom flipped through it, Jake's texts, the bike photo, the Facebook screenshot, her fingers pausing on Liam's bent wheel. Dad stared at the floor. The linoleum scuffed from Liam's sneaker races. He's a kid, I said softly. You let Jake break him, and you cheered. Mom shook her head. We didn't mean, but Dad cut in gruff. This is too much. They left the folder untouched on the table, Mom's lavender scent lingering like a ghost. I didn't cry, just sat there, tracing the scratches on the wood where Liam carved his initials one rainy afternoon. Jake didn't stop. 2 days later, Liam found a note in his backpack. Slipped in at school. Call Uncle Jake if your mum's mean. Family sticks together. My heart sank, picturing Liam's small hands unfolding it, his brow furrowing. I called the principal, my voice shaking but firm, and filed a police report that afternoon. The officer, a grey-haired man with kind eyes, read the note, nodded, and said, We'll handle it. The school banned Jake from the premises. I exhaled, leaning against the fridge, its magnet souvenirs from road trips with Liam clinking softly. But the fallout spread wider. Terror dumped Jake when Mum's car insurance lapsed, our last payment cancelled, and the repo man came for her sedan. I heard it from a cousin who whispered, She's furious. Jake posted online. A blurry selfie captioned, Family betrayal cuts deep. It backfired. Someone shared his hustle post, and the comments turned, What kind of uncle does that? One read. I scrolled through, sipping tea from the mug Liam painted at camp, wobbly stars in blue, and felt a flicker of something like relief, not joy. I'd emailed the folder to our extended family the night we dropped it off, subject line, Why we're stepping back, no rant, just facts. By week's end, replies trickled in. Aunt Peg wrote, I didn't know. Ellie, I'm sorry. A cousin sent. Jake's always been a bully. Others stayed silent, but the quiet shift told me they'd seen enough. Mom called once. Left a voicemail. Talk to us, please. I didn't. Dan and I sat on the porch that evening, the swing creaking under us, the same one we'd rocked Liam in as a baby. Fireflies blinked in the yard, and he said, They're scrambling. I nodded. The air smelling of cut grass and the lilacs we planted for our 10th anniversary. Good, I whispered. It wasn't triumph. It was the sound of a door closing, gentle but final. Liam watched it all. Quieter than usual but not broken. He'd taken to sketching again, filling pages with stars and bikes, his pencil scratching late into the night. One evening, he climbed onto the couch beside me. His socks mismatched, one blue, one green, a habit that always made me smile. Are we bad for this? He asked. His voice small but steady. I brushed his hair back, feeling the warmth of his scalp, and said, No, sweetheart, we're free. He leaned into me, his way to comfort, and nodded. Uncle Jake's loud, he murmured, but you're stronger. I hugged him tight. the TV humming some old western Dan loved, and saw it in his eyes a spark, faint but growing, like the first star at dusk. He didn't need their approval, not anymore. Dan came in from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag. The radio still playing faintly, Cash's gravelly voice singing about hurt. He looked at us, smiled, and said, "Pizza tonight." Liam grinned, the first real one in days, and I felt my chest loosen. We ordered from Tony's, the little place downtown where we'd celebrated Liam's first lost tooth, pepperoni and extra cheese. As we ate, the kitchen light cast soft shadows on the walls, and I thought of Mum's cobbler, Jake's truck, the family I'd once chased. They were fading, not with a bang, but with the slow turn of a page. Liam laughed at Dan's bad joke, something about cows and guitars, and I saw it clear. We weren't just surviving this. We were building something better, one slice, one smile at a time. Weeks slipped by, the summer heat softening into late June. Jake's landlord called him out, rent unpaid, without our help, and he was gone by month's end. His truck a fading rumble. Mom and Dad mailed a letter, handwriting shaky on cream stationery. Family forgives. Ellen, come back. I held it over the sink, struck a match from the box we kept for birthday candles, and watched it curl to ash. Liam's old bike stayed bent. Dan surprised him with a new one, red and shiny, from the hardware store where we bought his first tricycle. He rode it down the street, hair whipping in the breeze, and I stood on the porch, the boards creaking under my slippers, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone stayed quiet, no more texts, no calls, just the hum of cicadas filling the silence. Liam started 5th grade, his backpack heavy with fresh notebooks. He found friends, 2 boys who loved drawing as much as he did. Their lunch table a mess of pencils and crumbs. One day, he brought home a sketch, a boy, under a starry sky, labeled "Me, Safe," in his careful print. I pinned it to the fridge, next to the magnet from our trip to the Grand Canyon, and felt my eyes sting. He was blooming, roots sinking into soil we'd cleared for him. That night, Dan took us to Tony's for pizza, the booth sticky with memories of Liam's gap-toothed grins. Jake emailed once, "Bitter, you ruined us." Happy, I deleted it, my finger steady, and joined Dan and Liam. Their laughter, a balm over the table's worn wood. The fight was over, not won, just done. I'd chosen Liam, chosen us, and the peace was soft, like the Afghan grandma knit me, draped over the couch where Liam now sprawled, reading about constellations. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I watered the lilacs, their scent mingling with the grass Dan had mowed. I thought of Mum's cobbler, Jake's smirk, the family I'd once stitched myself to. They were gone, but I wasn't empty, just free. Here's what I learned. Looking back, peace isn't loud, and love isn't a debt you owe forever. I spent decades chasing their nods, shrinking to fit a frame they'd never hang. Jake's dollar wasn't the cut, it was the mirror, showing me Liam's hurt was mine reborn. Letting go felt like losing, but it wasn't, it was finding. You don't have to stay where you're broken, even if it's home. Family is not the house you're born in, it's the one you build, board by board, with hands that hold you steady. Liam taught me that, pedaling his bike, smiling like he'd never been small. If you're wondering who to keep, choose the ones who see you, not the ones who demand you change. That's the quietest strength there is, and it's worth every step away. I really appreciate you staying until the end of the video. Maybe you've been misunderstood, overlooked, or even hurt by your own family. If this story stirred something in you, don't hesitate to leave a like or drop a comment. I read them all, and I truly value what you have to say.